Once, a clever con man, nicknamed the Groom, made a cruel living by pulling at the heartstrings of wealthy young women in order to rob them blind. His scheme was a relatively straightforward long con. Find a girl with enough money to be worth his time, play the rich, handsome suitor, schmooze her parents, gain their trust. After some months, propose to her, offer to generously make the arrangements since her parents were paying, then take all of the wedding money and enjoy a honeymoon for one. Devious scumbag. But it worked. I think I remember hearing that he'd started as young as 17, stealing from lonely and rich widows who longed for intimacy, but weren't careful enough to hide their pearls. Whatever he stole from the old dears, he used to buy himself a new appearance, suits, fake Rolexes, and most importantly, bribes, for getting into high-end places he had no place being in. This whole facade helped sell his role as a rich young gentleman, which he used against the poor love-struck women whom he so carelessly played. Year after year, woman after woman would be left standing, heartbroken at the altar for her beloved groom who wasn't coming. Meanwhile, he was off enjoying the spoils of these brief romances. Yet no one could catch him, mainly because if you were a rich and powerful family, who would want the bad press that you were scammed by some lowlife that made off with your money? No, crushing sadness for a jilted daughter were far more acceptable than a public scandal. So it all seemed like a win-win for the aptly named groom, who could come and go as he pleased, eagerly searching for the next meal ticket. At his height, he had convinced 4 women at once to marry him, at the same time. None of them knew about each other, of course. It was easy to get away with playing a long-distance lover when taking the role of a traveling entrepreneur. Visit one girl and tell the others how much you miss them while you're away on business. Buying cheap exotic-looking gifts was a real lifesaver at times, I'd imagine. Can only picture how smug he must have felt, writing or calling about how much he missed 3 women at a time while sharing a bed with the 4th. Well, the big day came and went on this monumental scam, and it worked. 4 women each went to their respective venues and prepared for the happiest days of their lives, only to feel that happiness ripped away and left with an empty void inside their chests. The groom had done it once again. He'd gotten the money and ran away. If he'd been smug before, you can bet he'd be grinning ear to ear as he drove away with a car full of cash. I'm sure you've heard the saying, "Hell hath no fury as a woman scorned." Well, times that by 4, and you've got a revenge plot so furious even the devil would advise caution. By one way or another, and the accounts differ from a mobster's daughter to a full-on revenge cult, the 4 women managed to track down their long-removed groom and brought him to a small, remote venue. Something intimate. The flowers lining their surroundings were withered, all kept from each bride's special day. The cake was moulding, and the atmosphere bleak. Each bride wore her wedding dress, the ones bought specially for such a monumentous occasion, truly a moment to remember. They'd bound the groom to a dolly, that he may travel down the aisle and stand before the altar amongst his betrothed, suit handsome and pristine. Each bride stood around him, reciting their vows, "Till death do us part," before ripping open his chest and carving out his heart, staining their lovely white dresses a bloody and permanent red. From here he was buried in a remote grave, a small stone marking its location, which read, "Here resides a heartless groom, cursed to know his lover's gloom." And that would usually be the end of things, death being a rather permanent conclusion after all. However, some years after the groom's final service, stories began to arise. A lovelorn and heartbroken woman wandering the woods, trying to break away from the hurt of a broken romance, where curiously she comes upon a small, weathered gravestone. Most think nothing of it, other than being an odd place for a marked grave. She'll read its inscription, and with a heavy heart, may foolishly say her lover's name out loud. When night falls, she'll encounter the object of her desires. He'll appear donned in a fine suit and speaking no words, but longing for her embrace. It'll feel like a dream, almost numb and senses dulled to everything around her, just trapped in the moment. He'll move for a kiss, but should she touch his chest, she'll feel a large, gaping hole. Tearing open his shirt will reveal a large open wound, a beating heart inside. At the moment of this revelation, all will become clear. The appearance of her love will rot away and reveal a decayed stranger's face. His cold touch chilling against her skin, a foul, putrid stench will fill the air, and the heart will begin to slow. Desperately he'll hold on to her, demanding or pleading for her love, as the earth begins to swallow him once more, dragging her down with him. Hope she can break away and be free of him, as he has returned to the grave. She will be safe from here, but the tragedy is not yet over. The groom may take the appearance of the various men whose names are whispered at his grave, but he cannot replicate the one thing he lacks. That must come straight from the source. Nothing can heal a broken heart, especially one that's been torn out from your chest. We're not quite sure what happens to those who accept his kiss, only that they are never seen nor heard from again. So ladies, if you're suffering from lovesickness this day, I do hope that you can avoid the advances of the heartless groom. It can certainly leave one feeling rather hollow. But this isn't entirely the end of our cadaver Casanova, as there is still the matter of his fatal fiancées. Perhaps sometime we can further discuss the fates of the last loves of the groom, the bloody brides. Happy Valentine's Day.